What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Easy Podcast. This is episode
9.
Is it
9?
Are you sure it's 9?
I'm pretty sure, isn't it?
It could be 8.
No,
It's
we've
not?
done 8.
What was 8?
That 8 was last week.
Oh, well, this is episode 9. So, welcome to episode 9 of the Easy Podcast. I don't remember where I am half the time, but
Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Do we have to?
Nope, but we're going to real quick, and then we're going to talk about Overlord and Widows.
Yes.
And
we
then
are.
I got to go to California. So,
Yeah, you did, dude. We got to talk about that.
Yep. And that's going to basically be it. We'll have a little wrap up at the end of some trailers that have came out recently, and we'll talk about those. But first, Eric.
Yes.
What have you been up to?
About 5'11".
Yeah? Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, we can't all be 6'4".
You're right, you jerk.
Yeah, well, it's okay. You can fit into sports cars better.
Yeah.
I don't think I could fit into like a Skyline very well.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay. All right. When are you getting your R34? Is that what I'm going to say?
Well, yeah, I do want an R34. That's true, but I'll take a new one too.
Oh man, there's a couple around town.
I've seen ones in my neighborhood.
Is this a car podcast
This
now?
is
We're. Anyways, let's
tech,
stop talking about
gaming.
cars and let's start talking about a guy that unfortunately has gone on to the great big comic book in the sky, Stan Lee.
Yeah.
I know we're a little bit late here and talking about it, but
Well, it was this week.
it was.
Yeah.
So, man, Stan Lee, that guy, I mean, he really touched anything pop culture in a lot of ways. So much stuff is just based off of comic books that he was involved in.
For sure.
We wouldn't have the MCU without him.
Nope. No, we wouldn't. I mean, I was on my way to a training, an offsite training, and Andrew sticks his head in the truck and goes, "Hey, did you hear about Stan Lee?" And I'm like, "No." Yeah. But the way he said it made it pretty obvious.
Yeah,
And the dude's 95.
I mean, it's a great life.
Yeah.
I mean, you really, gosh, just something about him that is always super interesting to me is that he didn't really like start his career, or at least get big in his career, until he was like in his late 30s or early 40s.
Yeah.
Which is pretty unique, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
He was kind of embarrassed to be the comic book guy for a little while, and then
Because he was on the old side?
Well, no, I think it's just because it was kind of, comic books were frowned upon in a lot of ways. Like, they were considered childish, and
Yeah.
and but then they blew up in the late 60s, the Marvel stuff especially. And he, got popular. But I mean, yeah, he 95 years old. Gosh, what a long period of time to be on this earth.
Yeah. And my first reaction was obviously sadness, and just it was kind of a bummer. But my second thought was, man, I hope they recorded a dozen cameos for the next 10 or 12
Yeah,
movies.
I guess James Gunn recorded 5, and we've seen, I think, 2 of them. So there's at least 3 more. The thing with that, I mean, it's super easy to have those. Well, I don't know if Stan Lee's, foundation or whatever, whoever is in charge of his copyright and likeness, will want them like CGIing him into movies. But I mean, the simplest way to do it is just kind of like, I think Deadpool 2 did it, where it's just like on a poster in the background.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's like graffiti, or something on a wall.
Mm-hmm.
That's the easiest way to do it. And just keep them in those movies still. I think it's interesting that he got to see this kind of renaissance of Marvel in his lifetime. And because they got into a bunch of issues in the 90s, and they kind of had, they almost shut down completely.
Right.
That's why they sold off a bunch of their rights to Sony and 20th Century Fox,
right.
and now we are where we are now.
And then
but
Disney ended up buying
Marvel right.
altogether.
Yeah. So I mean, it's so interesting to think of just the life that guy lived, and just how positive he had been like the whole time. He always came across as just a really happy dude that was just loving life and excited to be around and doing what he was doing. And he, he said he never worked. He was already doing what he's, wanted to do. And yeah, man, just a legend and an icon gone. Sad stuff. But that work at least will live on. So
Yeah, rest in peace, Stanley. We love your work. We'll always remember you, and we'll keep your story and your legacy alive.
yeah. Speaking of legacy, man, I'm getting good at these segues. I got to visit the Warner Brothers studio backlot.
Yes, you did.
And
why were you there, actually?
So it was my anniversary.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
It's so awesome that your wife is totally all
man,
in.
she
in
loves
that.
it.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's really cool. One of the backlots was like 70 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it was from 1930. Oh, well, 70. So I guess 1930. It's almost 80 years old. I can't do math, but yeah. Like really, really incredible. And it was just amazing kind of the technology that they had there, in the sense of like the backlot was made out of, I'm probably getting this wrong. I want to say polyurethane, but I don't think it was. But it was like basically all the bricks are molded bricks. They're not real bricks because it would have cost too much to have that much brick. And then also they need to be able to peel those backlots away and make them into something else if they ever needed to. But
right.
So it was crazy to think that 80 years ago, they had the technology to make these tools and the molds for this plastic brick, basically, and it's still there now.
Yeah, that's cool.
Really incredible stuff. So we got to see actual screen-used props and costumes from the DC movies. That was really cool. All the suits from the DC movies were 3D printed.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they're all 3D printed. And the Flash's suit took 4 hours just to get into, which seems insane to me that you're wasting that much time just putting on a costume that has zero makeup to it.
Right.
It's not like you're putting on prosthetics and stuff.
Right.
So it was just crazy to find out that they were all 3D printed. And Aquaman's Justice League costume weighed 50 pounds on its own. So he had to carry that around the whole time. I mean, Jason Momoa, he can carry some weight. He's not hurting in the muscle department.
He's in good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a 50-pound pack on your back. He's good. Yeah, he's fine.
But it's just incredible. I didn't realize that they were 3D printed and then also weighed that much or took that long to get in there. But they had some Harry Potter props and stuff like that, which was really cool. We like that more than probably anything else. But
so you got some wands in your backpack?
No, we did that at Universal Studios.
Sweet.
But I got to visit on the tour. You go through the Warner Prop House, which is 100 years old of just every prop you can imagine was in there that you needed. And they're all built into different sections of the room. And like you needed something from East Asia. Okay, well, this section's got you covered for like decorating a set from East Asia. But then the coolest thing that I got to see while we were there was the original red leather chairs that they used for the Matrix movies, which was just awesome.
I would have pulled the truck up outside.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
like,
it was really cool.
Running off we're running off with Morpheus's chair for sure.
It was pretty sweet to see that and be like, oh man, that's really it. Like that's what they used. But the coolest thing about that was that anybody, as long as you have money, can come to that prop house and rent props. Anything, like anything you want. As long as you got money, you come in, I think you can like offer like certain amounts. So what they do is they give like a value to a piece, and then you can say like how long you want it, and then you give like a percentage of that. I might be wrong, but anyway, really cool.
That's cool.
So if you're in California and you need some props, it's not closed off. It's open to literally anybody that has money. Come in, get what props you need, go shoot your movie, and come back and drop them off. Like, yeah, it's really cool. So I
wonder how many times those props don't come back.
Well, they're barcoded, and
we're gonna rent the Matrix chairs for our next feature.
we're gonna quote unquote rent. Yeah, no, I was fortunate. Like I was lucky to be in the right place at the right time, and we were walking by, and there was actually some set decorators actually checking out some props while we were there.
Really?
And it was like a sheet, like a paid, like a booklet that you had to fill a bunch of information out. So I doubt anybody's getting away with anything there without getting caught afterwards.
Well, they're probably going to put a big fat, you're going to have to pay a
Yeah, it's not like
not
like you're coming in and paying with cash. You're putting it on a card that, it can get charged if you lose it. I mean, could you imagine what the Morpheus chairs would be if you stole them and they charged you, or you lost them and they charged you? I mean,
no.
a chair that's actually probably $1,000 if you just were to buy it would be 10 grand probably because of what it is.
Or $100,000.
Yeah.
Because of how much, you think about what they would make renting it over whatever year period. Right. Yeah. Crazy. That's really cool though.
It was a lot of fun. So it was, it was interesting because we wanted to see a bunch of the Harry Potter stuff, and I get there and I'm like, oh man, Blade Runner is Warner Brothers, duh, obviously. Mm-hmm. So they had, some Blade Runner props. They had the blimp from Blade Runner and it was all lit up and stuff. And then the main thing that we wanted to go see was some Harry Potter stuff. Because my wife and I are pretty big fans of that. And a lot of really cool stuff, fireplace and stuff from the movie and some of the signs and just some really cool things that you wouldn't see anywhere else. You wouldn't see like at Universal Studios or whatever. It's just real like screen use stuff. So it was pretty cool. But we went, last week? And then Fantastic Beasts 2 came out.
So did you get to see some of those props?
There were some there, yeah.
Johnny Depp's dyed hair and
Johnny Depp's
contacts and his
dyed
outfit.
Wig. No, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess I should say, they were not there.
Or was that his real hair?
I don't know. That dude might be bald by now.
Yeah,
but he's got enough money that he could do whatever he wants with his hair. Anyways, not a good dude. But I want to talk about Fantastic Beasts real quick. Let's just get it out of the way.
If you say so. I didn't see it.
Yeah, I know you didn't see it. So I wanted to talk about this. So Fantastic Beasts 2 is...
Not fantastic?
Not fantastic. No. The first one's not the best.
This is Crimes
either.
of
Grindelwald.
Grindelwald.
Yeah, it's a German name.
Grindelwald.
Yes, basically. Well, yeah, it's a little on the nose with that because he's basically like Wizard Hitler in a lot of ways.
Wow.
Yeah. So the German name makes sense.
So is he trying to eradicate all the mudbloods, or like what's his deal?
Yes. So yes, and
he's trying to purify everything.
So he's what they call I'm going to get this wrong. Do not write me. I know Harry Potter fans are very, very adamant about the lore.
I'm very casual, so you're not going to get it from me.
So the purebreds, the pure bloods, the full-blooded wizards, which are just, wizards from lines and lines of wizards, and that's all they've ever been as wizards. Mm-hmm. Well, he's one of those, and he wants to get all of those pure blood wizards together and basically kill everybody else. Like anybody that's not a pure blood, like human or even half, wizard, half muggle or whatever. Yeah, he just wants to take over the world. So that's his kind of...
But the wizard world or the whole world?
Both worlds. Or the wizarding world and the earthly world.
And the MCU.
Yeah, he's going to bust in different properties.
Yeah.
But
in the quantum dimension.
Yeah, he's going to go and meet Ant-Man over there, yeah. This movie, I'm not going to talk about it from a moviegoer perspective. I'm going to try not to, at least. But it was interesting because we watched... Immediately when we got home, my wife was like, I wonder if any of the Harry Potter movies are on HBO or Netflix or whatever. And so we find them online or on one of the apps that we have on our Apple TV. And she starts watching them. She watches the first one that's directed by David Yates, who David Yates directed the last, I think, 4 Harry Potter movies, and then also the first Fantastic Beasts and this one.
Okay.
And then he's also slated to direct the next 3 or 4 Fantastic. They have these planned out till 5 already, which is just ridiculous.
Well, so this one had Jude Law in as
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore, right?
Pretty great. He's only in about 8 minutes.
Oh,
so whatever. Also, I probably won't spoil this, but then again, there's not a whole lot to spoil in this movie. It's kind of a movie that doesn't matter. It really felt like it could have been
kind of like Solo.
Yeah, and then also kind of like The Last Jedi, where you start off and where you end, nothing really mattered in the middle of that. Mm-hmm. You're kind of in the same spot.
Right.
This movie felt like it was just a lead into the next movie.
It's filler.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a filler movie. But yeah, it was interesting because we were watching the first David Yates one that he directed in the Harry Potter movies.
Which one?
Order of the Phoenix.
Okay.
So that's the 4th one, I think.
That was legit.
Mm-hmm. No, sorry, 5th one. That's the 5th one. And it was like 20 minutes in, and I'm like, this already has more character and more interesting moments. And I don't know if it was just because he already had 4 movies prior to build up, or it's a matter of, well, they have hundreds and hundreds of pages of book material to go off of for these Harry Potter movies, whereas Fantastic Beasts is written completely from scratch. Like there isn't really
it's for the screen.
Book,
it's written for the screen,
and these movies are written by J.K. Rowling. Whereas the other ones, the screenplays weren't written by J.K. Rowling. She just had the story by, basically. Right. The movie's fine. Like it's fine. It's a movie.
If you're bored and not doing anything, and it happens to pop up on Netflix.
If you want more Harry Potter world, it's fine. It's fine to put on and go do something else and hear wizardy things in the background and look up every once in a while and be like, oh, then there's another scene with Jude Law, and then he's gone for another 30 minutes. But it just kind of lacks some of the, I don't know, the character and the magic of even the first Fantastic Beast movie.
No pun intended.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
It's lacking the magic.
Yeah, and it was weird because the first one, I didn't look it up. I should have. But the first one, I don't know what they shot it on, but it still felt like a Harry Potter movie. It still looked visually like a Harry Potter movie. So from a technical standpoint, this movie, it almost felt like a BBC TV show.
Wow.
Like a high-end BBC TV show. So I don't know if you've ever seen Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch
yeah.
and Martin Freeman. But he, like, by the way, that show's great. But the way that looks, it still looks like a TV, European TV movie. So I don't know. I mean, they shot the second one on Alexa 65, which is their large format, not the LF, it's even the bigger format. But it looked, I don't know why, it looked like too crisp and not soap opera-y. It didn't have that look to it. I don't know, I can't put my finger on it. It just felt a little 30 frames per second, not 24. Or maybe like it had a lower shutter, something.
It had more of a digital look to it.
Yeah, it looked very digital, which is strange because the Alexa image is like the most filmic image you can get. But then I started thinking about it, and the Revenant also was shot on the 65, early prototype 65, and that movie is really crisp. Even though it's like it's a really gritty and dirty wilderness movie, it's super clean in the image, and it started to make me think about how important now in how crisp these sensors are and how much resolution you're getting. And I think 4K should probably have been the max.
Yeah.
You can upscale a lot of stuff to 4K and you can't even tell. There's a great website and article. I can't think of his guy's name. I'll remember it and I'll put it in the show notes. But where he actually takes like 35 millimeters scanned in footage and then upscales it to 4K. And then he takes in like 1080 footage and upscales it to 4K, and you cannot tell a difference.
Wow.
So if you do it properly, when you have the right tools to do it, I'm not saying you go in and you upscale it in Premiere. Yeah. Like these are thousands and thousands of dollars worth of tools for upscaling.
Sure. Yeah, and a $250,000 Avid machine.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that anybody can do it, but a studio could do it. So I think the argument of, do we need more Ks? I've been a pretty big advocate for Red in a lot of ways. I don't think the 8K system is really the best option for like their normal sensors. So they have the Helium and then the Genesis, which are both 8Ks. But I really like the way that their 8K Monstro, which is their big VistaVision camera, looks. But it's something about cramming those smaller, the more Ks into a smaller image size that I don't like. When you take 8K and you put it, they're basically bigger pixels,
right,
on a larger sensor.
Yeah.
So it's the same amount of pixels, but they're bigger.
And you don't, and consuming that content, you don't want to see people's pores in their skin. And that's the kind of detail that you're getting with these sensors.
And it didn't help that I saw it. I was able to see this in the Cine One here at the Harkins. And so it was a 4K projection, and I looked it up, and they did master this in 4K. So it isn't upscaled or anything at all. So the Alexa 65 is 6.5K, I think. So the 65, I think, goes out of that, also 65 millimeter. But so then they downscale it to 4K, master it out at 4K, and then ship it. So it looked too clean.
Yeah.
And they shot it on Arri 65 primes also. So what I'm trying to get to here is that now that we have these Ks and we have these high resolution sensors that are super clean, or they can be, more than anything now, I think lens selection is your film stock now.
Yeah.
I think it's less about the Ks and the sensors and more about what kind of characteristics do I want out of the shots that I'm getting.
Yep.
And so I need lenses that are going to give me interesting characteristics, and it felt like these lenses had no characteristics at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, almost like you were shooting on like a Canon lens, just
wow.
very normal looking, just very straight run of the mill kind of a look.
Yeah.
The color grade is fine. It felt a little brighter than most Harry Potter movies. I don't know if that was intentional or not, to not make it look just so grim, because like the last 3 or 4 Harry Potters are very dark.
Right.
So I don't know, but all that to be said, I think my 2 biggest takeaways with this movie were lens selection is very important in how your film looks, and people should focus more on that now than anything, because film stocks are gone. I mean, they're gone.
Yeah.
Also, a side note, all the Harry Potter movies shot on film.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that I think really probably helped that and give it its own look too.
Mm-hmm.
Shot on Vision 500 and Vision 100 stock, I think. But anyways, so the other thing about Fantastic Beasts was a lot of characters, none of them needed to be there, or some of them were there and had no purpose whatsoever.
No development
At all on a lot of them. And if there was any development, it was just all of a sudden like exposition piled on in a moment, like just people just straight up talking to each other.
Yeah.
To get the exposition out, instead of you slowly kind of figuring stuff out. And then 2 minutes later, that exposition doesn't matter because, all that information was wrong anyways. This is actually, like, it was a really weird twist that I had to find out from my wife because I went to the bathroom. But anyways.
If it's one of those movies where it's okay for you to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of, then it's like wait for Netflix.
I got up and I went to the bathroom and I was gone. I'll be honest, I was gone a little while. And so I came back and I go, oh man, did anything crazy? Did I miss anything crazy? She goes, you missed a lot. So then the end of the movie happens, and then there's this big reveal at the end of the movie, and I won't spoil it. And I'll go, was that what I missed? Because to me, it was a reveal at the end of the movie. It's like, was that what I missed? And she goes, no, actually, that just happened just now. I was like, so I didn't miss anything then. I really didn't. So she tells me what I ended up missing. I was like, that had no relevance on the rest of the movie, because now one of those characters isn't there anymore, and then the other character isn't who you thought he was, and it doesn't matter. I want to talk about characters because I think screenwriting, obviously, nothing would be anything without scripts.
Absolutely.
There is no movie, there is no TV show, there is no commercial without somebody first having an idea, writing it down, and then fleshing out a script or a story. Even if that script has no dialogue, somebody wrote something.
Absolutely.
To get that idea out there.
Yeah.
And
even in the MCU, where they do a lot of improv and a lot of improv lands in the final product, there's still a script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So J.K. Rowling wrote this, like I said earlier, and it feels like, I love the Harry Potter movies and the books. I think they're great. I think she
stick to novel writing.
Well, I don't
writing.
want to say I never like telling people what lane to stay in.
Sure.
Because I will say that I did really enjoy the first Fantastic Beasts, but it was more of that whimsical world, and it was kind of a happy movie, I guess, which was different because the last 4 Harry Potters was such downers. I mean, in a lot of ways, they were very dark. So then you come into this wizarding world, and it's in the 1920s, and it's like, oh yeah, this is cool, But then this one, it just really fell flat for me, and the characters just didn't matter. And I bring that up because the contrast that I want to make to that is the other movie that I saw this week, which I want anybody listening to this podcast to stop listening to this podcast.
Push pause.
Go watch this movie, which is called Overlord, and then come back.
Okay.
Okay? You're back? All right, let's talk about Overlord. So, Overlord is this little film that could. All right? Nobody has seen this movie. It hasn't made any money. and it's produced by J.J. Abrams, but it's directed by this guy named Julius Avery, who directed this movie in 2014 called Son of a Gun with Ewan McGregor. Mm-hmm. I've never seen it. I have never even heard of it. I think it's Australian or something. Anyways, doesn't matter. So, and then he did a bunch of short films before that, and then he came into this. Now, after this movie, he's going to go do the Flash Gordon remake.
Oh,
that's
wow.
his next project, which that's typical of what's happening right now. You get these indie directors, and then you give them a giant, big tentpole movie, and they either do it really well or they screw it up and they never work again in their lives.
Right.
It's one. I know I say this a lot. It's one of the best looking movies this year. So we have this. First Man, and then what else did I see that I said was really good looking?
Well, I said Stars Born.
Oh, Stars Born, right?
Born looks.
Yeah,
I mean.
So and then the other one is Halloween. I think those three, I guess four now, probably the best looking movies that I've seen this year. I mean, I haven't seen Stars Born, but it looks great. I mean, I don't have to see that movie to know that it looks incredible. Matthew Libatique just killing it on that one. But I bring up the cinematographers for Overlord because it's two people, and I've never seen that before in a movie. Yeah, you'll have double directors or like two writers or something, which the two writers doesn't really matter. But directing, that's typical Coen brothers and Wachowskis. But this was two cinematographers. I don't know who did what or how that even worked on set, or if somebody worked on it enough to where like the the ASC, American Society of Cinematographers, required their name to also be on it. That may have been an issue there. But either way, the first cinematographer is Laurie Rose, and she did Free Fire, and she's worked on a TV show called Peaky Blinders. Have you ever seen Peaky Blinders? No. Yeah, you got to check that out. It's Cillian Murphy from Dark Knight. He's Scarecrow. Mm-hmm. And then Tom Hardy's in it too. And Sam Neill, and it's a great show. I think it takes place in like the 30s or 40s, maybe the 20s, in like just rundown London, and it's about this gang in that era, and Cillian Murphy plays one of the gang members. Anyways, it's really great. So check that show out. I think it has like 5 seasons now. Wow. Yeah, it's really good. Free Fire, kind of a, I don't want to say boring movie, but it's not super, super interesting. Not a whole lot happens in it. It's a movie that takes place all within one warehouse, between a couple people trying to buy some guns, and then stuff goes crazy. And anyways, I had a lot of fun with that movie, even though it's not a great movie. It still looks great. But the second director of photography is Fabian Wagner, and he has worked on Game of Thrones, but he was also the Justice League cinematographer. Really? Yeah, which I didn't realize that Justice League wasn't shot by Matthew Libatique. I could have swore he did it, but I guess he just did Batman versus Superman and Man of Steel. So anyways, I thought that was really interesting. This movie looks incredible. Like the color grade on it and the camera movements. The camera is like almost always moving, and it's almost always moving like through stuff and around stuff. There's this one scene where one of the characters, he jumps out of the back of like a military truck. Like this is World War II, so it's one of those big trucks, the one that I'm talking about if you've ever seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, exactly. So he's jumping out of the back of that, and then the camera follows him from jumping out of the back of that, and then he crawls like under the truck. The camera goes under the truck with him, and then it comes back, goes in front of the front tire, and then reveals him walking like out from under the truck, and it just follows him to the door where he goes. Like it's a really, like there's just tons of stuff like that. And we talked about blocking with the Infinity War episode, and this movie is like a masterclass in blocking small spaces. Wow, that's cool. Like it's really interesting, and there's a couple of really long like single takes that are just, they're not like, oh my gosh, this is 11 minutes long, but they're long enough to where you notice them and you're like, oh, that was worth it. Like that was an interesting thing to do for the whole take of that, to have him just for a single action. So getting back to the color grade on this though, the color grade is done by this company called Company 3, who basically, if you like a movie and how it's looked in the past like 5 to 8 years, it's probably been this company that color graded it. I follow a few of the guys that work there on Instagram, and they're on Instagram also. I think it's just at Company 3. So go and check them out. It's some really great stuff on there that like you get so inspired from. But talking about the writing and comparing it to like the Fantastic Beasts character, like each character in Overlord is totally needed for the story to progress. Like it's actually really interesting in like character development, and then also just like this character had to be there for this thing to happen. This character needed to do this for this to blah, 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 blah. It's a totally different like view on script writing that feels, I don't know how to say this without sounding bad, but it feels old. But that's like in a good way. Mm-hmm. It feels classic. It feels, it feels so fleshed out. Like people put a ton of thought into it as they were writing it. And it was actually written by two guys, but the one guy that I wanted to talk about that wrote it is, oh my gosh, I didn't write his name down, but The Revenant, which I brought up earlier. Accidentally, I didn't even think about this connection, but the guy that wrote the Revenant script, he wrote Overlord also. And the movie just feels like a movie from 20 years ago or 1980s, where you had characters and they had moments and they had motivations and they had things to do, and none of them were overly stereotyped or boring at all. You know, there was never a boring really moment, and I think it's great. I think it's a really interesting script. I'd like to get my hands on the actual script from like online or something and see. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Fantastic Beasts, it just felt like characters that didn't have anything to do really and weren't needed for the story to progress. And Overlord was like such a polar opposite of that. I actually saw Overlord before I saw Fantastic Beasts, so I don't know if it was something that I noticed even more because of Fantastic Beasts or what.
Because the contrast didn't help.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So anyways, camera movement, everything, character development, unique characters, unique moments, stuff that I hadn't really seen before. There was never a point in this movie where I was like, I know where this is going to go. You never knew when somebody was going to maybe meet their demise and all this stuff. And just a really tight script, a really great script and a really great movie. Just like I said, it felt classic. It felt like a Steven Spielberg movie, but without like the Steven Spielberg magic, you know, where it's not fantastical, but it's just so well done, so thought out, and I really can't recommend this movie enough. Like, it's great. Go check it out. No matter where you're listening to this right now, like if it's still in theaters, go check it out. If it's on Netflix or whatever, like go see this. It's great, and I'm actually really excited to see what else this director does and this team does. So side note on this, Wyatt Russell is one of the main characters. He's the actor. Mm-hmm. Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son.
Really?
Yeah, I had no idea that they were actually related. I had seen Wyatt Russell in an episode of Black Mirror, and he's great in that. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So
Kurt Russell named his son Wyatt?
Yes, but
after Wyatt Earp?
No, he was born like 5 years before he was in Wyatt Earp.
Tombstone?
Yeah, Wyatt Earp was Kevin Costner. Tombstone is interesting, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so 5 years before he's Wyatt Earp in Tombstone, he has a kid, names him Wyatt. Now that kid is grown up and is acting and is really good.
Wow.
And there's a scene in it where he's like kind of like covered in blood and stuff, and he's just been fighting another guy, and he's like kind of turned a little ways, and I'm like, this looks just like Kurt Russell in every 80s Kurt Russell movie.
Wow.
Like he looks so
Fitting
much
image,
like
huh?
If you need, it's kind of funny that they didn't just like get him to be younger Kurt Russell in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like, because he looks so much like him. It's insane, especially when he's like kind of beat up and if they redid The Thing, or they needed a younger Kurt Russell to do another, maybe they do another Escape from New York,
yeah,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Get this guy. He's a great actor. Like, he's not just one of those things. He's not like,
we're going to actually have you play your dad.
Yeah.
Who better than your son?
Right.
Right?
And he's so good.
He knows him at home.
Oh man, he's such a great actor in this. He's a really great character. And again, I keep saying unique, and all these characters are unique. In the context of this movie, they're unique. I mean, it's not saying it's the first time I've ever seen like an Italian character in a World War II movie. That's in every World War II movie. But just the way that they go about it is really unique. So anyways, I'm talking a lot. Go check it out. Overlord, see it however you can. And what else did you see this week? Because I've been talking for 40 minutes now.
So I wasn't gonna see it because I'm not a big fan of the overly gory stuff. But now I want to see it. So now I'm gonna go see it because, I mean, even Saving Private Ryan was gory at parts, and that's a true element of war that you can't escape. So
yeah,
there's an element.
It's not war gore though in this really.
Anyway, I'll go watch it.
Go watch it. I mean, there's a couple of moments that like if you don't like horror at all, or if you don't like gore at all, you might like have to close your eyes for a second.
Like it's a little over the top.
It's not. It's never over the top. It's not. Man, I don't know. Maybe I'm probably not the right person to be talking because we were talking last episode about how I wanted to go see this, and then you were like, "Oh, Halloween wasn't enough for you." I'm like, "No," and Halloween's like, to a normal person, Halloween's pretty gory.
It was, yeah,
but it wasn't to me. So yeah, I'm probably not the right person to be like
asking that question.
Here. Yeah. So. I would say there's not a whole lot of like over the top gore in this, but a normal person might say that there is. So,
gotcha.
But anyways, it doesn't matter. It's like such a side piece to the rest of the movie. Like it's great. I think it's great. Go check it out.
If it if it's creatively used and it enhances the experience, not like over the top, overtly used. So it's in it.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
It's not a Saw movie.
Yeah.
It's not a Saw movie where it's just used as like a weird prop.
Yeah.
It's used to like bring you into this moment of what the heck is happening.
Right. Gotcha. All right. Well, you did another thing you mentioned. You talked about blocking and shots and stuff like that, and getting into the technical aspect. I was super excited. My son came in town, surprised his younger sister for her birthday. Nobody knew he was coming, and he just showed up Friday afternoon. It was really cool.
That's crazy, man.
It was really cool. So, but she had something already planned with some of her friends from school. So my wife took them to the the theme park or whatever, and so he and I went and saw Widows.
Yeah, so this is the new Steve McQueen movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what was amazing about it is it had these Hitchcock-esque moments in it where the way that they cut the editing in the first 10 minutes, the way that it almost the way they played with the timeline.
Okay.
Going back and forth was reminiscent of Memento to some degree.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so where they're cutting back and forth, and there's this reflective moment, but at the same time they're introducing you to the characters and developing the characters, and it was just you were all in after the first 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
It was so well done.
Yeah.
And it was so refreshing because it was done in a manner that isn't your cookie cutter template, plug in, here's your 3-part,
right.
here's your
3-act structure.
Yeah, your 3-act structure. And it was just so well done. And there's a nice plot twist to it. So the writing was done really well.
I've really been a fan of Steve McQueen's stuff.
Yeah.
I know you I don't think you've seen much of his work, if any.
Well, I saw 12 Years a Slave.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was... Man, I mean, the subject matter.
Right.
So, I mean, that was fantastic. And
really
obviously winning the Oscar on that one.
Yeah.
But he brought the same team back together for this. So
yeah, that's really cool. I think he's really enjoyed probably working with those guys. So he's been working with them a couple times now, I think. So who wrote this?
So Gillian Flynn was who wrote the screenplay, also alongside Steve McQueen. So it was a co-write.
Okay.
And it was based off of the I guess there's a book or novel. Linda LaPlante was the original story writer. But it was well written. It wasn't your typical heist movie. You look at the trailer and you're like, oh, it's a girl power heist movie. And it absolutely was not that at all.
It wasn't Ocean's 8?
It wasn't Ocean's 8, no. I mean, there's some elements in it that you have Liam Neeson and Viola Davis are the two main characters, and they're in a relationship. And so it was cool because that's an interracial relationship that's being portrayed on screen. And not that they make a big deal out of that or try to, but it's a thing. And it's the way they put.
Is there aspects of that coming into play, or is it?
No, it is.
It's just normal.
Yeah, it was normal, and the way they portrayed it, it was like, yeah, that's how it should be. It shouldn't matter
it's
what
2018. Yeah, who cares?
Exactly.
Nobody should care anymore. We're not in the 70s anymore.
It does come into play a little bit where there's tension between
like a racist cop or something.
Some of their characters.
Okay,
I'm not going to get too much into it. I don't want to spoil anything, but there, and it's not overtly in your face.
Okay.
It's subtle. The way it's done is very very creative, and Robert Duvall, Colin Farrell.
Yeah, there's a ton of people in this movie.
Elizabeth Debicki, she does an amazing job as well. Michelle Rodriguez, and yeah, I mean it was well done. Viola Davis's performance is just fantastic. I mean you just believe she's feeling all these things.
Yeah,
and
I think she's just gonna get more and more like awesome as she keeps getting these gigs.
Yeah,
like she's a great actress, I think.
Yeah, amazing. And Sean Bobbitt was the DP on this, who was also the DP on 12 Years a Slave.
Mm-hmm.
And it was edited by Joe Walker, who also edited 12 Years. It was just well done. It was well done. I highly recommend it. I mean, from the look, from the feel, from the story ride. I mean, you go on the ride and the twists and the turns, and it just has a fresh feel to it that, like I said, the editing in the first 10 or 15 minutes just really grabs you.
That's cool.
Then you're in.
Yeah, that's cool. I've been a fan of like, I don't know, unique edits lately. It feels like there's been like Bohemian Rhapsody, we talked about last episode. The first like half of that movie, I felt like it was edited really slick, like it was really interesting.
Oh, cool.
And kind of unique, and it kind of takes a fart, and the last half editing wise is just pretty traditional. I think more people should just have like fun with is the edits, like just. I don't know. It takes the problem with the system that we have is that, studios need to make money. That's their job. And They know what makes money, and certain things probably don't make money. And being a little more creative with your edits is one thing that doesn't typically make or break the box office. So they know, hey, let's stick to this. We know this works. We know this is going to get people in the seats. We know this isn't going to turn anybody off to it. But I think in a situation like this movie, I haven't seen it, but I'm guessing it's probably not trying to set up this weird cinematic universe of widows or something. So
yeah, no. I mean, it doesn't really. You don't get the sense that they're at the end that they're setting up a sequel. So they probably could write one, and it would probably do well. It was a $40 million budget. It'll probably make 80 to 100.
40 million. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It feels like lately I've been finding those movies that are in that budget range like the best movies lately, because Overlord had a 30 million. And so it's like this mid-budget movie that they just don't really make a whole lot anymore.
Yeah.
At least not that get like theatrical releases. Netflix is doing them all the time. But it feels like they're able to have more freedoms and creativity in there because that budget's probably lower. And so it's not a huge risk to the studios in the sense of, the marketing's probably not nearly as high as, say, a Fantastic Beasts, which I'm sure Fantastic Beasts had a $180 million budget or something like that. I don't know for sure, but what does that say if the story doesn't matter? There's so much to that. So yeah, I'd be fine watching a $40 million movie as long as it had a good story and it was done well.
We're talking about how studios apply funding and budgets, and the creativity gets stifled because of what works, what doesn't work. We have a formula that we know is going to get a certain level or a certain percentage of return on our investment.
Right. And
how much of that business side of it, how much of that, Poindexter element gets just totally crushes things that we might have seen differently.
Right.
And so And that's kind of the push and pull. That's part of, and I think that part of the reason why I keep going to MCU, but part of the reason why MCU is crushing it as much as they are is that not only do they get the big budget at this point, but they also have creative freedoms.
Yeah.
Different type of movie, I get it, but at the same time, how much?
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm sure some of that
have
still
a lot of creative
exists
freedoms, but at the same time, it's still very much Kevin Feige telling you what you have to put in the movie.
Well, yeah, that's
so.
true.
I mean, I don't know how much creative freedom you could say the MCU movies have. I mean, the most obvious example of that is Edgar Wright dropping out of Ant-Man because of creative differences.
Right. Yep.
So I think they've gotten a little more lenient as they've been popular, where they know, like, hey, this is going to work. This formula works, but you can do it this way if you want to. Yeah, I don't know if I would say the MCU
if you
is
want to, but
creative.
You won't be on the next one.
Yeah, right. So I think there's a lot of creative collaboration in the MCU. I think the Russo brothers, especially, probably more than anybody. But I don't know about complete creative control or liberties that the MCU has. I think the polar opposite of that, though, is probably we're getting into it again, but DC, if we're going to talk about MCU, the DC movies, I think, are shot with too much creative liberties from the director and probably writer. And then those movies get into the edit, and then the studio has to try and save it. Yeah. And so then I think that's the polar opposite of not having enough creative control from a studio, or any sort of just saying no to anybody,
Right. Yeah. But it's interesting that side of it. It's what somebody can do and what they're capable of doing, and then you pay them a bunch of money, and then you put handcuffs on them.
Well, I mean, oftentimes you'll see people that, like, oh, I just want to. You brought it up a couple episodes ago. Axl Rose,
right,
funded Chinese democracy. Yeah, and that was his thing.
Yeah. Well, the other $7.5 million he took
money.
$4 million of Warner's money to start.
Yeah, maybe that's not a good example then. I guess I'm trying to think of an example, and I can't really think of one. But I know somewhere in my lizard brain, there's there's memories of movies that I've heard of or I've seen that somebody, like the director, funded completely on his own, and then so he had nobody to tell him no, and then they're not good movies. So
which is why you haven't seen any of them.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I feel like I have, but maybe they're crappy movies that I'm just forgetting. I don't know. They're not usually good movies from what I can remember. So yeah, I think it's an interesting balance.
It is, because let's rewind the clock 80 years, right? Let's go back to, the golden age. And was it the same? Was it the same way then?
No, I think you probably had producers making movies then.
Yeah.
Studios demanding what needed to be in a movie more than you have now. Mm-hmm. There was a great podcast. I don't think it has the episodes up anymore. I don't know if they got like a copyright strike or something, but it was, I think it was called The History of Motion Pictures or something like that. And it was basically a kind of like a narrative podcast where there was different characters and they would go through the history of the big studios. Anyways, I learned a lot through that, but it was really interesting to hear like the demands, because the studios knew what made money, and that was their whole point. So they needed this picture show and this picture show and this picture show to make money, and it had to be done this way, this way, this way, and this way. It had to be checked, and every box had to be checked. And I think you have a lot more creativity now in directors and stuff. And before they were all studio released movies. I think you probably saw that come up in the 70s with the I can't think of the Zoetrope crew, Coppola and Lucas and Spielberg and all those guys, Scorsese and stuff. And so I think you had a big renaissance there, where you now had guys with vision making movies instead of studios making movies, and then those guys took those movies and then they sold them or somebody picked them up.
Well, right, when Lucas does Star Wars, and then it just creates this,
Yeah, I mean, it's not a world without it now.
But at first they were like, "This is awful." Like this, like
right, nobody understood it.
I was like, "This is the worst thing ever. Yeah. This isn't going to go anywhere."
And then his ex-wife ends up winning the Academy Award for editing. I mean it's an interesting. That's a episode in itself, just talking about the studio system. And I don't have a ton of experience compared to some people with it, but yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that.
Yeah, I mean that's probably one of the reasons why you rewind the clock and you had these certain types of movies over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
You'd have maybe new actors that would put kind of this new coat of paint on it, so to speak. The westerns that.
Oh, I mean, just millions.
The formula of it, and
you only remember certain ones because they had a unique vision to them,
right?
Sergio Leone had a unique vision to his westerns, and that's why they're the most remembered out of all of them.
Right? Sidney Lumet does 12 Angry Men, and the way that was, that was the way that was shot. I mean, was just
right.
It was amazing. The use of the lenses and how the shots got tighter and tighter as the story got more and more tense. I mean,
that's a movie. We need to have a classic movie.
We do. We should
about 3 movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, this is turning into be like a script episode, but it really shows you how important story is when you're making a movie and fleshing out characters and making them interesting, and just having that creativity work in with the characters. And I think there's a lot of style over substance in the last 15, 20 years of movies. I don't really have anything else to say about that except for segueing from style to substance. We talked about it a while back, but there was trailer for the new Transformers movie, the Bumblebee movie,
right?
And I'm actually excited about seeing this, which is the first Transformers movie I've been excited about seeing in a long time, probably since the first movie came out.
Because I'm I've been so over the Transformers for so long.
It's
when
just noisy.
Literally, I'm considering seeing it because you're intrigued of seeing it, not because when I first saw the trailer, I was like, it was an eye roller.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, here we go, another Transformers movie.
It's interesting though because if we want to do a trailer breakdown from a technical aspect, James Cameron, one of the whatever you think about Avatar and Titanic, James Cameron is one of the best action directors ever. Okay. And the main reason that I think he is one of the best action directors is because you can tell what the action is as it's happening. Because what he'll do is he'll back up, he'll use a wider lens, and then let you kind of go on for a ride as if you're viewing it from 20 feet away instead of you're in the middle of it. Okay, so Bumblebee, which
costs more to do, by the way.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Which is why his movies are so expensive.
But it to me, it's more interesting, and I'm actually more in the movie because I'm able to understand my surroundings and what is happening in that moment.
Right,
it brings me into it more. If I'm going to sit here and break down the Bumblebee trailer, there's a lot of action in that trailer. I can tell what is happening the whole time because that director, whose name escapes me right now, but he backs up, shoots it wider, and you can tell. And there's actually this really cool tracking shot that they do, and it's in the first trailer. I don't know if it's in the second one or not. But Bumblebee's fighting another Transformer, and they're in a junkyard or something, and she's the main character's running, and the fight's happening kind of around her, but you can tell what is happening. They're away and is wide enough of an angle, and I can differentiate the two characters. That was always my problem with the original one. Is the first the Michael Bay ones is who is who? This is just metal scraping metal right now. I can't tell.
Is that Carnage or is that Venom?
Right. That's another one. It's exactly
your point.
Yeah, the action in Venom is terrible. It's close, and I can't tell who's who. And Carnage or Riot and looks like the same, just a darker shade or lighter shade, I guess, of Venom. Anyways, doesn't matter. I don't want to get into Venom anymore. But anyways, Bumblebee, from a technical aspect, it looks like it's shot with purpose and that you're supposed to be able to tell what the action is going on. It's not just supposed to be noisy to be noisy.
Right.
So I'm excited for that. I think it'll probably be a good one. I don't know if it'll be a good movie story-wise, but I think at least production-wise, I'm excited to see Transformers that have unique characterness and style traits to themselves, very similar. Like, I mean, there's certain moments in the trailer where I'm just like, oh my gosh, this feels like the 80s movie finally come to life.
Right,
and,
you mentioned that before.
Yeah, and it's just, it looks a lot better than the originals, the Michael Bay ones. I keep saying originals, but side note on this is this director is rumored to Travis Knight is rumored to be the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 director since Sean Gunn's gone. Yeah, right?
James Gunn. Wait.
Sean Gunn. Yes, sorry, James Gunn. Sean Gunn is James' brother. Yeah. Sorry. That'd be great if they just traded out Sean Gunn for James Gunn to direct. That'd be really funny, actually.
And they just trade notes. We're going to go home and
No, he's got like a little Bluetooth in his ear and he's just actually directing him the whole time. That'd be great.
That would be fantastic.
But yeah, anyways, Knight is supposed to maybe direct the next Guardians movie, which is interesting. I think that's an interesting pick. He's done Bumblebee, and what else did he do? Something else kind of recently?
That's a good question.
What up, man?
I had Bumblebee pulled up. I was looking at Bumblebee.
Oh, Kubo.
Oh yeah, Kubo and the 4 strings or whatever. 3 strings. 2 strings.
1
string. I know they broke some strings. But yeah, that was a great, and the 2 strings. I love that.
Yeah,
that
Kubo on the 2 strings. So he directed that, and then he's doing Bumblebee, and then now potentially, I don't know, Guardians. Guardians, that's such a weird one for me.
Paranorman.
Yeah, he worked on
Coraline.
Yeah, he didn't direct those though, but he was one of the animators on them. But Kubo was his first directing one.
Gotcha.
Anyways, I think it's really interesting. Production wise,
the
story will probably suck, but I'm just excited to see actual Transformers as I was a kid and being able to comprehend what is happening on the screen and not just be bombarded with loudness. I want to go back to Overlord real quick. And speaking of loudness, the sound mix in Overlord is incredible. I was in a normal theater, small theater, and there's the opening scene. They're on an airplane and they're getting ready to land over France, and it's loud and stuff's blowing up, and it's just
as it would be.
Right. It was mixed so well, and there's actually parts of it where like stuff's blowing up and everything, and you can kind of like barely hear the people talking. And I'm like, this is the thing that I liked about it is it wasn't like movie realistic. It was like realistic sound mix where it would sound like that. You would be able to like barely hear somebody talking right next to you as flak bangs are going off, and the plane next to you is blowing up. So anyway, sound mix is great on Overlord. Just go see Overlord. That's, if you take nothing else away from this episode, it's go see Widows and Overlord. That's it. Skip Fantastic Beasts unless you have to.
Yeah.
But
wait till Netflix.
Yeah, it'll be on there or HBO or something. I don't know.
Music on Overlord was Jed Kurzel.
The music's so good too.
Yeah,
like it's heavy. It's a heavy sound movie. It's really good.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some trailers? Did you watch anything? Watch any trailers lately that you've kind of been? I talked about Bumblebee, but
the trailer that's got my attention right now is Alita.
Oh. You mean CGI Fest 2019?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm a CGI junkie.
No, it's fine. It's just, it's kind of jarring to me because it almost feels like a movie that they should have just made CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then her eyes freak me out, man.
Yeah, you don't like the big anime eyes.
But she's the only one with them, which is why it's weird to me. Maybe that's explained. I mean, it's based off a comic book, right?
So all the better to see you with.
All right. Red Riding Hood reference. What is this? Your Mother Goose podcast now?
No, I mean, she's a wolf in sheep's clothing, apparently. So,
yeah, Alita, Battle Angel.
Yeah.
Originally supposed to be directed by James Cameron. Now it's directed by Robert Rodriguez.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't. You want to talk about it? Because I don't really.
No,
I'm not excited for it. So.
I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. CGI. Let's
yeah. It's definitely
some gratuitous.
popcorn.
It's some gratuitous eye candy that
it is.
Yeah.
It does seem like it's shot flashy though.
Yeah.
Which is kind of appealing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not. It's not marked in my calendar, but I just crapped all over your movie trailer that you brought up.
Back to the fart reference.
Yeah. Anyways, I came across this random trailer called Captive State. This movie called Captive State, and at first, as I was watching, I was like, "Is this like a political thriller or something?" Like because current times are a little rocky in certain areas, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is playing off that. And then like an alien spaceship comes out of nowhere. Yeah, so I wrote it down as
and you're poo-pooing my CGI movie.
Well, hey, no, this is. Did you ever see Arrival?
Not that I recall.
Amy Adams. Oh wow. Okay, you got to go see Arrival. So this has got John Goodman in it.
Oh, okay.
And it feels like it's a weird like alien invasion meets dystopian society where I only watched the first trailer because I like to do that. I only like to watch the first trailer that's kind of like a teaser more than a trailer most of the time. So I don't get too much information. I get just enough and I can see the visuals and be like, okay, I want to check that out. So the vibe I got was like this alien society has come in and like fixed everything. Like the alien invasion has come and they let us kind of be us still, but they've fixed society. Like there's world peace now, but it's under the thumb of an alien overlord type of a thing. And so it's got this interesting like dystopian world. Anyways, it looks interesting. It looks kind of unique in that aspect. I'm always down for a good alien flick. And like shot wise, it's just had some really cool, interesting like the smoke bomb stuff is really popular right now with a lot of things. Right. And like the poster for it is just like a guy and he's got like two that are just shooting red smoke bombs all around him. And I don't know. Anyways, it's probably not going to be great, but John Goodman's always great. So I'll probably check him out. I think he's so good in everything, especially like 10 Cloverfield Lane. He's fantastic in that.
Or as an evil government senator in Evan Almighty.
Well, I guess you just poo-pooed on my John Goodman reference because that movie's not good.
I sure did.
I guess
but speaking of Rocky,
I deserve that. Rocky.
You mentioned Rocky. Creed 2 is releasing this week.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really excited to see that.
Okay, yeah.
I think Michael B. Jordan does a really good job. I am a fan. I think he's a great actor.
He is.
And so we have, the trailer. Ivan Drago's son is the
dude's huge.
Oh man.
I think he's bigger than Ivan was in 4. And
so you see I forget that. Dolph Lundgren, who plays Drago, who's in it. And him and Stallone have this glare, and you're just like, yes. I mean,
Yeah. I was
talk about formulaic movies, but I mean, it was just one of those things that
is a movie franchise that is the same thing every movie, but you always want to watch them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it got a little soft, like in 4 and 5. It got a little soft. Like 5 was okay.
4 is where Creed dies.
It was soft. No, that was Creed died in 3.
Mr. T kills Creed?
No.
What? No, 4 is the Ivan Drago.
Is that 4?
Yeah. Because 1 is Rocky 1.
Right, Rocky
Creed.
1. Right.
2 is Rocky versus Creed again.
Right.
3 is Mr. T. 4 is Ivan Drago.
Oh, I thought that was 3.
5 is where he has...
5 is where the...
I can't even remember what happens in 5. He has the robot servant in his house, and he loses all of his money.
Yeah, and there's this other kid. It wasn't even... Like, it's some young boxer that was coming up. It wasn't... Yeah.
I can't remember. And then 6 is just Balboa, where he goes back into the ring again, and that's with... the guy from This Is Us is his kid in that. And then you have Creed.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Rocky 3 with Clubber Lang.
Clubber Lang is his actual name?
That was the...
that was
Mr. T's character
right.
was... Yeah. And then,
you got to brush up on your Rocky.
Yeah, I do. It's been a while. Rocky 4, you're right. Rocky 4 was Drago. So Rocky 4 was pretty solid. But 5, maybe it was 5 and 6 that I felt like went soft. It was soft a little bit there in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, Balboa is a little softer, although I really like kind of the grittiness and like the story of like the old guy coming back. And,
yeah.
5, I don't even remember 5. Like, I really don't remember what
was
happens
it
in 5.
I remember as the kid was wrapped in an American flag on the movie poster, but
weird.
Anyway, that being said, Creed 2, I mean, I thought Creed as a Rocky reboot was that was well done. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like, okay, it's not him.
Right.
But he's the
I'll be interested to see how well this does, because Sylvester Stallone's directing this one, as opposed to Coogler, who directed for the first Creed.
Yeah.
And Ryan Coogler is a freaking boss.
He is a beast.
Yeah. So I'd be curious to see, like, hopefully it lives up to it. I mean, I think the pieces are already there to where you couldn't really screw it up too much.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, Sylvester Stallone's a fine director. I mean,
the formula is already there. You're not going to take too many creative liberties. People are like, for me, growing up watching the Rocky movies, and that, you've got Drago's son. I mean, Drago's back, and that whole tension. The tension is still there, even from a 1-minute trailer, which was cool.
Right.
So that's what I'll be watching this week, in addition to Overlord. And the wife's really been pulling on me to go see Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's good. So it's fine. I mean, you won't regret seeing it. It's pretty good. So, well, I think that's about it, man. We had a lot to talk about.
Stuff.
Jeez. Yeah. We rambled.
And we still didn't talk about everything.
No. So,
which is why we'll be here next week. And if there's something that you thought we should have talked about that we didn't, you can hit us up on Twitter at The Easy Podcast, or on Instagram at The Easy Podcast. Where else can they find us?
Well, you said Instagram and Twitter, and then YouTube at The Easy Podcast Show. And then I'm on Instagram at Zach Abbots, and you are on Instagram as
not the.
There's no the. Just
Eric,
lose the.
Just Eric Thurston.
Cool.
So you can hit us up there. Same on Twitter.
Yeah.
You can but if you're listening, hopefully you've already found us on iTunes or Stitcher or
Google Play.
Yeah.
Still trying to get on Spotify. I don't know what's taken so long on their end, but
we're going to have to move to a different solution until
it's not happening.
Yeah, aggregated hosting and pay $5 a month, I guess.
All right. Well,
so please donate.
Yeah, I was going to say,
please donate to the cause. Donate $5 a month so that we can get to a different.
We don't have a way for you to donate right now, but just send money to an envelope marked The Easy Podcast.
Put your loose change out of your car in an envelope and send it to Zach Abbots at P.O. Box.
yeah, that'll work. All right, guys, that's it for the episode. Thanks for listening. We will catch you next time.
All right, we'll see you.